Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Welcome back, everybody, to Gotham. Today, we're going to be talking about the Penguin. We're going to be breaking it down so that everybody knows what you're here for. Forget about it. Anyways, welcome back, everybody, to my full breakdowns. This was the episode I was waiting for to talk about. And from here on out, I'm with everybody else for this thorough ride, this surprise. I have no clue what's going to happen past this episode. So let's break down when I said I've been saying this for weeks now. Hello, Carmen. How are you doing? I've been saying this for weeks now. This is the pivotal episode where what you've been watching gets reframed. I said there was a lot of surprises and things, and now I can dive deep into it. And of course, this goes without saying, this is my full episode breakdown, so I will be breaking down everything in episode 4. What's up, Christine? Good to see you here. Welcome, welcome. It's going good. It's going good. So we are going to be breaking down the full episode of episode 4, uh, Satente. There we go, which means to good fortunes, which is ironic for where this episode goes. So this is the big, almost mid-season penultimate episode of The Penguin. This is where we finally find out about Christina Milioti's character, and where we get to see her acting on a whole nother level. She is on a whole nother level in this episode. And this is about everything that happened to Sofia Falcone. Is she crazy? Did she kill all these women? Is she the Hangman? And so I'm going to do my thoughts briefly and then play it inside the episode so you can get the actresses' thoughts and the creators who are fucking brilliant. And I hope they write more stuff in this Batman universe. This proves that Matt Reeves and his whole writing team is on a completely different level from anything else being done in DC. Uh, they have a world that they're building out. And this is the episode where you start to reframe every single thing we've seen building up to this point. So, in the last episode, we saw the Penguin leave Sofia yet again. But in this episode, it is completely from her perspective. And you get to where's Nick? Oh, Nick's taking a break. It was too much excitement. So this is the episode where we get to see things play out at the end of the last episode, but from Sofia's perspective. And we find out why Penguin said leave her. And he said leave her because Sofia heard from Maroni's wife that Penguin killed her brother. And not only that, but he's been aligning himself with Sofia. She gets beat up, and then we get a flashback into Arkham. And when I told you this episode was a crazy episode, for the Batman lore enthusiasts, there is an introduction to a character very rarely used called Magpie. If you don't know who that is, it is a person who eats people in pies, who becomes friends with Sophia. But we're going to take you back. She does a charity benefit, and she knows about her family, but not really. Carmine is played by a different actor, Mark Strong, who I think does a fucking phenomenal job in this episode. Um, he plays a younger Carmine, and you get to see everything from the movie The Batman and this show totally reframed. So in The Batman, it was implied he strangled women and things like that, and this is confirmed that in this universe he is the Hangman, which is a villain who kills women by strangling them and making it look like they killed themselves. And this episode deals with mental health. It deals with treatment of people in mental facilities. This does everything that uh, when you're talking about these topics you should do, but it does it much better. And I'm going to play the inside the episode, then I'm going to get to my own parts and what I thought of certain things in the breakdown there. But we're going to see a little bit of what the creatives were thinking when they created such a brilliant episode. And if you don't know, if I could go 11 out of 10, I would. This is a perfect episode. Nothing wrong. I have no complaints. I'm not going to bitch about anything. This is going to be me for roughly an hour talking about how great this show is. So uh, I know it's weird, but here we go. We're going to see what those geniuses were thinking at HBO.
My mom said you did bad things.
She's right.
I always knew I wanted to do a Sofia-centric episode. I view Sofia as the closest thing we have to a hero on our show. She's also not. She's complicated. So to unpack her, it felt right to see her origin.
To meet this woman and take her back through this journey to her original trauma,
Mom?
and then to crack that and open it and open it and open it until you get down to the heart and we find a deep understanding for who she has become.
And the brilliant part is that in this, they do a couple of costume changes and designs. They make Christina Milioti look younger in this episode to portray a younger version of the character. Um, it is heartbreaking to see her father, Carmine Falcone, explicitly lie about what happened. They played it off like the mother had a mental condition, but it's strongly implied that he killed her. And all of these years, he made it seem like she took her life. He opened a foundation in his wife's name to further the lie and to, I gather, and keep his daughter close to him through these times. And just no person acting in this is bad. The child actress is very good, who plays the even younger Sofia. The scene is great. And I do want to give a warning here. This does deal with some heavy subjects. So, just a heads up. They're going to get into a lot of it. Nothing too bad. It's just the notion of people taking their lives, that kind of a thing. So, just a fair warning. But this is how you do these subjects right. The show never tries to take this message and hammer it home. It's just a part of this character and really her tragic background. And we're going to see that Sofia is actually not really a villain. In a sense, they created her. They threw her in this place with these monsters. And what came out is this broken, damaged woman who, wants somebody to believe her, and nobody will, or nobody cares to.
what she will then do. I wanted to start with light in Gotham so that we see this world of innocence in Sofia's perception.
I know that there's an explanation.
Confused, sick.
As Sofia.
Mark Strong gives such a great performance in this episode. He comes off as this guy where you almost want to believe he wouldn't do this, but this is the moment. And when we get done with this breakdown, I'll go even more in depth to some of the acting in this episode. But the way Mark Strong, you can see him breaking her heart and her realization at what he's doing. And he just, you can see it right there. He's going to throw his own daughter under the bus and let her take the rap for the shit he did. And this really, is, like I said, this show makes the Batman better because now you get to see how much of a scumbag he is. And, it kind of makes you side with Riddler when he was doing that shit because you're like, yeah, these are bad people. This also does something that I don't think the Batman universe has ever done. This gives the mafia the presence they should have in Gotham. You were talking about a mob syndicate, a mob family of ruthless killers. Yet when you're watching Batman or something like that, you're always looking at like the Riddler, the Joker, or Two-Face, right? It's always like Batman's main foes. But we forget that these criminals are terrible people and they probably do worse things or just as heinous shit as Batman's supervillains. And this really grounds everything to where you see that it's not just these super villains, that are a challenge to Batman or that Batman should focus on, but Gotham as a whole is corrupt. Everything about this place is corruption.
This world starts to fall apart. We wanted to drive a very strong contrast between that world that we had created before and the world that she is now entering.
Get off! You're under arrest.
Did you do this?
The camera becomes much more handheld. Most of the scenes are taken from her point of view.
And we go with that.
And the thing I want to point out too, in this episode, Arkham Asylum is the character. It's the antagonist for this episode. It's where we spend most of the points. But I just want to say the camera shots in this, especially when she goes through what she goes through in this asylum, make the scenes much more intense. Here she is, probably the only innocent person in Arkham Asylum, and she's being treated like everybody else. But this also reframes all the villains that we see Batman take to Arkham. And as a viewer, right, as a person, you're watching Batman and you're going, oh yeah, fuck Joker, he killed all of them people, or Two-Face, right? And you're like, lock him away, whatever else. But this episode shows you, and I'm not saying the villains are the good guys, even though I am General Zod, but I'm just saying, this shows you that maybe Batman is not taking the right approach when he's just locking these criminals away, but he's not fixing the real problem. He's not fixing the actual issues, which is society in general, how these patients are treated. So they go to Arkham, they get shock therapy, hallucinogens, beaten by guards. They have guards who set up these things for inmates to be murdered. They have doctors who are rubber stamping electrotherapy treatments, right? And so when they come out, they're just as worse as when Batman first put them in. And it's so clever that they are not being overt about these things, but these are actual things they're mixing into this fantastical world, which makes things even more gray to even our hero we're following, right? Is he doing the right thing? Here he is, he's Bruce Wayne. He could be fixing the system from the inside, working with programs and community services and outreach programs to help these people be rehabilitated when they come out so that they won't go back to their criminal tendencies. But yet, he's only fighting them on a vigilante level. He's not fixing the problem. In some ways, he might actually be making it worse. And seeing it from her perspective, this innocent woman being tossed into an asylum and being forced into first admitting she's crazy and then into having to act like she's crazy to survive. It's brilliant writing that I never would have thought would fit in a comic book universe or fit in a Batman universe. But if you have talented writers like this show clearly has, then you can tackle things like this and have it make sense in your world.
Until she's in the cell.
For Arkham Asylum, we are very much informed by the Batman. We keep this octagonal design and these really small cells, and we use that to recreate the mind of Sofia and how closed in she is in there, how isolated she feels in there. You get the sense
there's the Joker. They make some references there, and I like how they still tie it in. And this is how you do adaptation. See, you don't need to have every villain that people are going to be like, oh my god, it's a quick shot as she's going through and she's seeing all of these people who are in Arkham. This is such brilliant writing because you get your little flashes, but this episode is primarily about Sophie and from her perspective. So you're not just seeing these cameos, but you're also seeing how she's viewing these people without that lens that like Batman or everyone else has. To her, they're just people trapped inside this place with her.
that she doesn't know where she's going. She doesn't know what's going to happen to her next.
What are you doing? Once she starts getting electroshock therapy.
And I just want to give out another warning to everyone. So warning and a fair warning about this episode. This show has some really big balls, and they show some of this treatments and things like that happen. So if you have sensitivity to that, just be warned. This episode is well, there is a brutal scene I'll talk about at the end of the episode, but the more brutality is the treatments and things that she'll endure. But I would say that this is also important. This episode is important in showing the kinds of things that were going on, and from my knowledge, still tend to happen to this day, and the brutality behind these treatments that these people are getting. This is the kind of episode where they talk about these things in a tasteful manner and open up this discussion that I think should be with giving people pills or shocking the shit out of them without actually tackling what the problem is, without actually diagnosing and helping people, having therapy sessions and trying to work through the issues. These were supposed to be treatments used as a last resort, supervised and done with some kind of care. And you see the abuse that is going on because these are doctors with no oversight, nobody to tell them, hey, you're going too far. So just a warning, this is a bit shocking. I'm sorry, that's a bad pun.
It needed to be a visual journey that is both emotional and moves us through time and develops into something.
It was important for us to see a digression in Sofia's state through using distortion in the lensing to create a distorted view of what she was experiencing.
Every time there's a shock, we find her coming to. And when she comes to, she finds another piece of the wall of her parents' bedroom.
We wanted to make the scenes feel repetitious, but then also only utilizing certain angles once or twice so that you would feel in that state unstable.
And the thing that is really hard to watch about this, and the thing that I said this episode does well, that's brilliant. So this episode really reframes Sofia, who, when you are first introduced to us, we don't know, is she the Hangman and stuff like that. And you find out since the movie The Batman, they've been leaving clues to who this person actually was. And now seeing it from this episode, seeing Carmine's own daughter who is enduring this, and he planned on throwing her in there and locking away the key. She's been in there for 10 years, being shocked, being fed hallucinogenics, and being poisoned. And while they're doing this to her, the one thing Carmine didn't want her to realize, the therapy is actually knocking loose memories of what actually happened to her mother and the events leading to it. So by locking her away and having her go through this, she's actually seeing the piece of shit that her dad actually is. And it's so visceral and raw and really crazy seeing the point of view and seeing everything shift. And it kind of reframes everything to where you go, oh shit, this whole time she was never the monster. She had a clue of what was going on, but she was never this bad guy that we first thought in the first 3 episodes. She was just this broken girl who wants anybody to acknowledge this horrible thing that they did to her.
That's all. We wanted to create a sense of dread in the tones by the bleakness of it.
When my background players all arrived, I empowered them with the truth, which is that they are the ones who make the world real. If the people in that environment aren't truly in the environment, it won't happen.
Every time they would bring me through the crowd of women, every single person was so invested in who they were. I mean, I was still getting chills thinking about it. It didn't feel like we were making a TV show. And those scenes really show what it brings out in people when you hurt them.
We decided to keep the camera quite still up until when she attacks Magpie.
So this was a great scene that I wanted to highlight for a second here. So Magpie is an insane person herself. For all intents and purposes, probably just crazy wanting to be your friend. But this is the moment where Sofia really loses who she is, and you see the split. And the tragic thing about this story is that at the end of the day, she wasn't a villain. She wasn't the bad guy. And that's the craziest part about this episode, and why people are going to rave about this episode for weeks. Why I feel like people are going to call for uh, Christina Milioti to win a fucking award for this show. This is the way she plays it, and then you think about her acting and how she was acting up until that point. You really start to go, holy shit, like, she was wronged. She was the victim. She was actually the innocent person in this whole thing. I mean, did she probably know about the shit that was going on in her dad's organization? Sure, everybody does who's in that life, but not to the extent that that she probably should have. And it's really heartbreaking, because then you see this transition. This person she's becoming was created. She was created by all the actions of these people around her, and her brutally fucking murdering that person is her transformation. They created Sophia, and they created what she becomes now. And it's so well done and so well acted by Christina Milioti. You can see the pain, the sadness, everything in her eyes. She's just such a great actress. It's amazing.
We chose to stay on Sofia to connect her to the violence.
I told you I'm fucking innocent.
For this,
Like that part, when I saw that, part, I got chills. I was like, wow, that is, it's like her acting and everything. And when you see it, when she first comes in and she says she's innocent, she's very mouse like. And then you see the transformation of she's done with these people's shit. And, it really reframes her return to Gotham and the constant betrayals from everybody, the family, Penguin, everyone around her. It's really quite, oh, it's quite haunting.
the scene where Sophia wakes up in Dr. Rush's office, Helen and I wanted to have it feel as if everything was a dream.
So now everything is accumulated, and she knows that every member of her family betrayed her, not just her father. She's being reborn at that moment. We washed everything off of her face. Any artifice would have minimized the starkness, the newness, and strength.
Like that look right there. And just like, oh my God, this scene was so great. And I want to say now, and I've said this in my review, uh, Theo Rossi, a great actor, one of my favorite characters in Sons of Anarchy. Um, Now his acting is like everybody else is really good. What I was saying was my issue was amongst all of the strong performances that are in this show, Theo Rossi's cameo and his you know his thing in this story feels a little bit weaker out of everybody else's, because you have this great acting from Christina Milioti, and it feels like she's really stealing the scene. Theo's good in this; he's very good, but I feel like Christina Milioti's just her performance is so powerful; it really outweighs what he's doing in this scene. So, not a knock on the actor, but that's what I meant when I said his character's kind of weak in the show. Is that I feel like her acting is overpowering the scene, so it's very hard to match that performance. And the only one who really does it is Colin Farrell. But he's Colin Farrell, so and that's what I mean when I say his character's a bit weaker in the show.
And the realization of the truth of her life up until that moment.
For 10 years, men have lied to me. She goes through all these different levels of like all these different personas, excellent daughter, overachiever and this horrific feral state in Arkham. And it's not until the yellow dress that she finds the one that fits.
Sofia is.
This is one of the most chilling scenes I've seen. And I gotta say, this is probably gonna go as one of my top favorite scenes in television when she comes out in the yellow dress. And when I go through my breakdown, I'll dive deep further into this. But she starts Toast, and she just lists off all of these things to this family and all the shitty things she does. It kind of makes what comes next really warranted.
Almost like dissecting her trauma in real time in front of the audience, and so the clothes sort of reflect that. So she does dress for each occasion that she's in. She has a lot of awareness.
So the yellow dress became very important, that she present herself, showing all of herself, and she makes her entrance to say her truth to these people.
She starts coming into her own as an adult woman. We try to tell the story with hairstyling. It's not supposed to read, oh, she went and styled her hair differently today. It's supposed to read, her energy is feeling this, and we can tell by her hair.
Makeup became a war paint statement. When you really look at it, you're like, it's almost like she's wearing a mask. And that's what you want the audience to see.
I don't fit into this family anymore. So tomorrow I'm starting a new life.
So Sofia.
And the thing about that scene when I was rewatching it, and this goes to how great the acting is. As an audience member, as you're watching this episode, you're led to believe there's all of these talks, even with her psychiatrist, that she's going to go to Italy or whatever. And when you see the final shocking moments and you realize what that statement actually means, and this is what I talk about when I talk about good writing, when I talk about, like, you can have messages and themes, and you can have good writing. This is excellent mastercraft in writing. So even her words and what she means when she says she's starting a new life starting tomorrow, and then you see this scene play out, and we'll get there. You just go, holy shit.
Without fully realizing it, wants power in part because she wants to fulfill something that she never was able to achieve because she was thrown into Arkham.
How like sharks can't stop moving or they sink. It's that relentless pursuit of justice.
So, yeah, that is crazy. So what does that mean? So if you guys didn't catch the episode, at the end of the episode, so she comes up, she lives, she gets saved by her psychiatrist. She goes and she decides that she's going to give this speech. And as an audience member, you're kind of sitting there going, oh, where is this going? And so there is a little girl who is the little girl we saw at the dinner party with the one woman who was terrified of her. And so she takes the little girl outside into this greenhouse, and she goes outside. She lays down with her and tells her to go to sleep. Don't worry about it. They wake up the next day, and she says, you get some sleep, I'll be right back. And you find out that Sofia gassed every member of the family to make it look like a carbon monoxide leak, which I'm just going to say that's a brilliant idea. So she basically wiped out all of the Falcons that basically were responsible for locking her away. And he goes upstairs with a gun, and we see Johnny Vitti is unaffected. So she opened his window and she kept him alive. And she says, we have to talk. And then it cuts. And dude, what do you say about an episode like this that's not going to be said 100,000 times across the internet by different people? Every conversation in this episode has a purpose. It has a meaning. There's no wasted words. There's no wasted scenes in this episode. I've watched it twice in preparation for this review. I watched it this morning before going live, so that's fresh in my mind and I could talk about it with you guys. but every single thing that's shot in this episode has a purpose, and that's why I play the inside the episodes, so we can see what the creators have to say. But the use of lighting. Okay, so you go back into her past and you see a younger, hopeful Sofia, right? And everything's bright and everything's beautiful and everything's vibrant. It's like her innocence. It's the character's innocence. It's this world she thinks she's living in. And as the episode goes on, you see the tonal change in the episode. You see the lighting get harsh and get darker and darker when she's talking to her father, when she's talking to this reporter who knows that there's something up, and then it culminating in her at this birthday party at the dead of night talking to Carmine about uh, her mother and how he had these scratches, but she wants an excuse. She still wants to believe that her father would never do this, would never hurt her mother. And he flips it and starts saying, "You're sick, you need help, you're not well." Now, there's a thing, there's a couple of theories about Penguin, but given Colin Farrell's performance and given what he said and how the scene plays out, I don't think he realized how far that this was going to go. And he's even said that when he met her. And I believe that. I don't think he realized she was going to be fucking committed for 10 years. But you can see, like, his reaction, like, oh shit, they're really doing this, and her being ripped away. And then you see the study progression. She goes and she gets a lawyer, but the lawyer's not really there to defend her. The lawyer's just telling her what's going to happen. She's going to get a psych eval. They're going to move to basically call her insane. And instead of standing trial, she's going to go to Arkham Asylum and she's going to be treated. And when she's all better, she's going to be let out. And it's like locking her away. And I'm sure in Carmine Falcone's mind, he's doing this as a favor towards her because he really only has two options in this case. Either he locks her away and just throws away the key, or he kills his own daughter, which, if you guys know mafia stories and things like that, there's sort of a code. You don't kill your kids, things like that, not unless it's approved or they do something against the family. So instead, he comes up with the idea to pin every single murder he's committed in these clubs on her. And so this is where we see the evolution of the character. And I'm going to tell you guys, I've been watching movies and television shows for years. I've seen character arcs like this that literally take 1 to 2 seasons. Like, take Breaking Bad, for example. Walter White's descent into Heisenberg is a very slow build. You don't see Heisenberg, I would say, till about the end of season 2, going into season 3. And we don't get Walt the meth kingpin till damn near season 5. Shows slowly build. So when you have a limited series, you have to create a captivating and believable character arc where you could go, oh yeah, I see their transition. And I've got to say, to see writing where you completely transform your character in the span of one episode, like, just think about from a writing perspective how fucking hard it has to be able to fully not only transform your character from this bright, happy person to a broken person, but get the audience to sympathize with them and then get them to do something so horrendous at the end of the episode to where at the ending you're cheering for what she does. And I've read comments so far since this episode has come out and in different comment sections and stuff where people were literally talking about, they were clapping, they were rooting for her and stuff like that. And this is the brilliance of the show, because now we got to switch back to Oz. There's going to be a lot of people with the way this episode is framed where they're going to kind of not be on Oz's side. So now you're going to have to do something to get people over on Colin Farrell's side. And I made predictions last week that I think Vic is not going to make it to the end of the season. So now seeing this episode and seeing how they're framing Sophie, I'm going to be honest with you. The only way you can get your audience to not be sympathetic and choosing Sophie to win this war is going to have to be Sophie's going to have to do something so diabolical that we're back on Oz's side. And I'm going to say the only way I see that happening is if Sophie kills Victor. Like, I told you guys, I don't know what's going to happen. I haven't seen past this. But it's really interesting. We got an episode from Victor the week before, and we got an episode from Sophie this week, and now we're back in the story in episode 5, which I assume is going to carry through the rest of the season now. I mean, we still need an Oz flashback, so maybe they'll win us over if we see what happened to him. But this is a show that is not just about creating these villains that are duking it out, and 1 week you're on this person's side, 1 week you're on this person's side. This is a show, and I'll say this again because it's one of my favorite shows of all time, The Sopranos. When you watch The Sopranos, it is all from Tony Soprano's perspective. You, as an audience member, have to side with one of the worst human beings ever created on television. But how do you do that? Well, through the seasons, you build this different side of the character. You show he's a family man. You show that he cares about his friends that are close to him. You show his relationships. Show that he does have certain moral lines he won't cross. You know, he's got these different sides of him, and you endear them so that when your character does something fucking horrible, the audience justifies it in their mind. And that's what we're doing, because at the end of the day, everybody in this world is fucking terrible. They're drug dealers, they're murderers. It's very hard to build these characters to make them likable. And I got to tell you guys, there's not one character in this show that is not compelling to me. The depths and the layers that they have is amazing. And just think about this. This is only an 8-episode show. And in the course of 4 episodes, they've not only built the world out, made the Batman movie better for this existing, but they've made 3 main leads that are the most compelling leads I've seen in television in a very long time. It's got to be 10 years since I've seen a show that's created such captivating leads that has such strong acting. There is not a single person in this show phoning in it. There's nobody who gives a half-assed performance. Guys, I can't even tell you a negative for this episode. I don't got it. I don't got one negative thing to say about this episode. I'm trying to be a critic and critique for you, but I'm not gonna lie and try to make shit up. Like, the fact IGN gave this a 5 out of 10 shows me that they don't know how to critique, because this episode is perfection. I mean, I gave last week's episode a 9 just because of certain things that I get. This is a 10 for me. This is a 10. If we were grading on 20 scale, it'd just be a 20. There's literally nothing wrong in this episode. If there is something wrong, leave me a comment. Let me know if anything about this episode you caught that I didn't. But this to me is perfect TV in every sense of the word. The acting, the scenes, the set design, the dresses, the wardrobe, the fucking hair. Dude, to hear the hair guy talk about the hair has a reason for the way it is. Like, her hair throughout the scenes, just look at it. It changes every time when they're flashing through different time periods. The fucking hair. The hairdresser came in and said, this isn't just a look she puts on. This is for this scene. It means this thing. It shows this. Like, when your hairdresser guy specifically makes a do designed for a part, like, what the fuck? I've never heard that in my life, ever. I've been doing this for a long time. I've never heard that hairdresser come out and be like, well, yeah, you know, when I was designing this do here, it was to specifically show this, down to her makeup and the way she looks from scene to scene, the makeup she wears symbolizes a different thing within the story. That to me is just absolutely so detail specific and so wild to me that even the makeup that she's wearing, which, look, I'm a dude, okay? Any ladies out there, you can leave a comment. I don't know if when you put certain makeup on, it means anything, but for them in the show to specifically point out different meanings behind how much of a certain thing she's wearing, means something, and the yellow dress. So let's talk about the scene. When she comes in with that yellow dress, not only does Christina Milioti look beautiful, but the way that you get this sense, you get this feeling of her stalking all of these people. And keep in mind, uh, the people sitting at that table are all powerful. There's literally a hitman. And the speech that she gives, there's a line in the speech where she says, Dottie over there has killed more people or has got a higher body count than I do. Yet I'm the crazy one. And it makes sense because you literally have a hitman sitting there who's probably killed more people than she's accused of killing. And yet she's the outcast. She's the pariah in the family. And it's so telling. And look, I know they throw a couple of words out here like about men and things like that, and I always say this. There is nothing wrong. There is not a thing wrong about putting statements in your shows. Everything in entertainment was built on some kind of a statement, something the artist wanted to say. And it's not the message that you're trying to convey, but it's if you forget the story you're telling while you're saying your message, is the message overtaking the scene? And does it take away from the scene? And to be honest, I'm sitting there going, yeah, that's that's kind of fucked up. It's like, yeah, when you think about the way the character's built, when you think about all the things they set up from the Batman movie to this, the men of these families and the way the mob works just historically, yeah, it's a very male-centric, male-driven type of an organization. It always has been. There's always been a thing that women can't sit at the head of the table. They're only supposed to know certain parts of the business. They're not allowed to be involved in family business. That's the most iconic saying in these mob dramas. But to take something like that tired concept and build a character like Sofia and then use her as a vessel that these guys used and threw out and discarded, it makes the audience satisfied to see her finally give them what they have coming. And this goes so much deeper because also it doesn't show that all of the men were scumbags. Her brother truly loved her. Her brother was the only reason why she got out of there. Theo Rossi, who plays the psychiatrist, is the only reason, and these were two men who helped get her out of the place that she was in. So it's not just saying all men are pieces of shit and this is what they do, but it's saying that there are some scumbags and there's some good guys, genuinely good, who don't feel the same way. And that is balanced storytelling. And I also talk about how female characters are terribly written. This is what I'm talking about when I talk about you can still write strong interest in women in these types of shows. And the fact that too, and I want to bring this back to She-Hulk. So She-Hulk had a predominantly uh, women's writer room, okay? And there was a lot of different talks about how uh, certain people left because they didn't agree with the direction they were going in, and they were males, and their critiques and comments were not taken into consideration. Now we go to this panel that's writing this show. You literally have a female director who is killing it, who respects and understands not only the world of Batman, but she created this character that could fit perfectly into this universe, proving again there's nothing wrong with having an all woman writing staff. It's the story that you're telling. This is a prime example. Even listen to her talk at the end of these episodes and talk about her ideas and why she picked this and why she did that. Everything makes sense. Look, I loved Game of Thrones. That final season, D&D, none of what they were saying made sense. Okay? So, yeah, you can have a brilliant female writing staff. This show proves so much and the issues that Hollywood in general is having. It's not about the material, it's about who's writing the material, and it's their insights and their takes. It's the individual artist that's creating these things. That's what makes a show good or bad. And this show is immaculate. Like, these people not only care about the characters and the story, this specific story, but they care about the world. And they don't ever try to do anything to change what we've already established. They're just adding to it. And I fucking love it. This is probably going to be, so far, my favorite show of the year. This is such great acting, such great writing. Everybody cares. Like, every interview we watch, and I'll continue watching them throughout the week, but if you watch the interviews with me, every interview you watch, the actors, the fucking hair guy, everybody cares about what they're doing on the show. They are picking apart and analyzing every decision they make for the scene. This is like writing 101. They should fucking show these to kids who want to become directors and writers, because that's how you do it. Everything that they do and they make is in service to the scene and the story that they're telling. It's like everything I've said for the past years about shitty shows. This just proves my theory and the issues that Disney and Marvel is having. This is not about singling out somebody or saying shit is woke or whatever else. This is about good writing and can the people you have tell a good story. At least for me. That's what it's always been about. It has been a joy for these past couple of weeks to sit here with you guys. I don't really care how many views this gets or who continues to watch this. This is just fun for me for once to talk about a show I am thoroughly enjoying more than any show this year. It's been such a breath of fresh air to jump from Agatha all along to this, and I'll be putting out my episode 5 later, which, to their credit, it's not bad. I'll talk about that later, but it's so hard for me to judge these two shows because when you jump from like almost an Emmy winning performance to that, it makes me see the flaws a lot more because this show has no flaws. Like, how many shows have you watched that just gets better every episode? Like, number one was just good. Episode was just good. One was good. And this show just gets better and better as we get to the ending. And that is how a television show is supposed to be. Like, if you watch Reacher or if you watch The Tulsa King, Yellowstone, any of the really great shows, Sopranos, Breaking Bad, anything like that, you should see the show progressively getting better as you go. You should see the characters evolving and moving as you go. This show, think about this, folks. This show has only 8 episodes. It is a limited series. After this, it's done. There's no more. And they killed Matt Reeves' other projects. That blows my mind because seeing the quality of this show, I want to see what that Arkham show would have been about. Holy shit. Or the one they were doing about the police, the GCPD. Like, if this is the level of writing we were going to get, why in the world would you kill those shows? This is brilliant. This is absolutely the best in television right now. There's no question, hands down. In the comments, you can let me know if you've seen a better show. The only show I can see competing with this, I haven't finished watching The Tulsa King, so I'm going to watch that with Bitchy, and Yellowstone. And you're talking about top tier, high end production shows there. You're talking about well established. They've built their shows out for years. This show built its show in a month. The show's only been out a month, and already people are going nuts talking about how great this show is and theorizing and talking about, oh shit, what's going to happen. This reminds me of the days of early Game of Thrones when you would get done watching the episode, you call your best friend and you go, holy shit, can you believe they just did that? I mean, this reminds me of the Red Wedding. If you guys weren't around or you didn't watch Game of Thrones at that time, which you missed the hype train, when the Red Wedding came out, people, you called the person the next day. Hell, you might have called them that night and you've been like, holy shit, did you just see what happened? And they'd be like, oh my God, where did you? I have no clue. Where are they going to go? They just wiped out all the Starks. Holy shit. Like, this show does that without even, we haven't even killed off any main characters yet. We've killed a couple of people here and there. I mean, today they killed a lot of people, but I mean, you're not even talking about the big players. You're talking about like just mostly dialogue, and you got people going like, wow, where is this going to go? Like, the ending of this, the way they're building it up, is going to be such a violent, bloody ending. And I'm going to be so interested in seeing people's reactions to like where this is all going to go to. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't know what's going to happen in episode 5. I only saw up till 4, so I have no clue. I saw 1 through 4 ahead of time. I have no clue what's going to happen at the end of all of this. And it this episode successfully builds tension leading up to the weeks ahead, and what this is all leading to. I am just so excited. So this to me was just such a perfect episode of television. I don't even know. I don't even know if I could say anything to cap this off, or to add anything to the discussion, honestly, because it's just like of a show. And I've never gotten it to where the show's rating goes up as we go. So I'm going to do the episode 5 preview, and we'll kind of break that down. And then I'm going to give you guys some of my predictions for next week. And then we'll be done with this, and I'll be back again to talk about the Penguin episode 5, which I'm sure is going to be explosive. So these are going to be our scenes from the next week.
The way I see it, Sofia done us a favor. Sofia's gonna come for us. I want what's mine. It's you and me now, kid.
And this is going to be so crazy. So we took this whole episode 4, and I'm going to pause it every now and again because I'll pull the video. But so all of episode 4, Sofia did Penguin's work. And it's going to be weird jumping back to Oz. So Oz is on the back foot. And it's going to be interesting to see who people root for, because after that spectacular episode and understanding Sofia's character, I almost feel like there's a shift in critical consensus. So they're going to have to do a lot for us to be on Oz's side. And I told you my prediction already. I think she's going to have to like off Vic in order for us to root for Oz again, because like the way they built her up in this in episode 4, I don't know how they'd get her to be the villain again.
So let's get back what belongs to us. One family down, one to go. Anytime we got ourselves some goddamn respect.
Like, oh my god. Oh my god. Like, seriously, folks. Seriously, if you're not watching The Penguin, go back through, watch the first 4 episodes. Watch episode 5. It premieres Sunday at 9 p.m. Central Time. And definitely get in on this. This is the first show I like that they were releasing weekly, so we can sit here and talk about it and theorize and find out what's going to happen. So this is where their release schedule really works. Like I said too, this is a show where the episode ends and they give you a satisfying story, which I like. If you guys don't know, I came from TV where you would end the show weekly and you have to sit there and wait a week. This is the first show I've seen that actually does that format really well. So I'm enjoying hanging out with you guys and breaking down these episodes and kind of coming up with theories. So what do you think is going to happen next week's episode? Um, Clearly from the promo I showed, shit is going to go down. I think we're going to be heading into the war. Oz is happy that Sofia has essentially murdered most, if not all, of the Falcones, and now it's down to the Maronis in his mind. But also, Sofia is quite dangerous, and now she knows the truth. And the interesting part for the rest of this series, and this is such a great, like, almost mid-season capper, is like, okay, Oz has to deal with the Maronis, but then you still got Sophie's crazy ass in the background too. And so it's going to come down to essentially Oz and Victor on their own fucking going to war with two different factions. And the build up to this and the lead up to this big gang war they're clearly setting up has been so fascinating. And please don't take a Joker route. I want to see this like actually play out, which I think we will. I think we're going to see a lot of people being killed. I think you're going to see. Now, the interesting thing is, I don't know if they're going to start like offing people towards 7 or 8, because typically how these things go, if you've never watched an HBO show, is they tend to do the best character deaths and really big scenes towards the end. But my God, this show has been so good that I don't know when they're going to do major deaths and stuff like that, because we're in episode 4 and so much shit has happened. And now I feel like this is the episode, like we are at war. There is going to be so much violence, and you saw in the promo, like cars blowing up, people getting shot. I don't know who they are or what's going on, but it looks fucking thrilling. I honestly can't wait for next week's episode. Like, if this was all the setup to this war, we have 4 episodes, folks. 4 whole episodes of these factions fighting against each other. This is the most exciting television I've seen in years. Like, I've never watched a show where they go, okay, here's the setup, and now the back half is going to be what you guys have been waiting for. There's going to be violence, there's going to be people shooting other people. And you know what? I gotta be honest, I don't even give a fuck about where Batman is in the show. I can care less. I am so engaged in the characters that they presented, and I think it was the best decision not to put the Batman in this, because I think this that allows these other characters to have their moments. It allows us to give a shit about the other people. If you threw Batman in here, for me, it would ruin it. I glad they didn't put him in here, to be quite honest, because they built such great characters. You don't need the Batman at all. To me, he would ruin this. Like, we can do a separate series. Now, like I said, my complaint still stands. I think they should have the cops in here or something. But they did put the reporter in this episode, and they are showing that there are other outside influences in this world. And I like to see the cops get involved, and, maybe there's a shootout, and, Oz is on the run from the cops or something. I like the police to be involved in some kind of way, or at least have it mentioned. You don't even have to have Jim Gordon. You can throw in some other cop who's following up these leads, But this is such a great show. My suggestion is you watch this. This episode is a 10 out of 10. It's perfect. I have no complaint. I can't complain about anything. I don't even know any flaws I could say is in this show. The acting is perfect. The pacing is perfect. The scene at the end is one of the most haunting scenes in this show so far. Just everything about this episode works. There's nothing I could pick apart this, and I tried. I watched this twice. I watched it when it premiered, and I watched it this morning just to make sure, like, I didn't miss anything. But folks, I don't know what to tell you. It's perfect 10 for me. This is perfect writing. I have no complaints. I mean, if I had one small complaint, it would be Theo Rossi. His acting is okay, but I mean, he doesn't even really act bad, so I got nothing. I'm nitpicking at that point. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate ya. So does the Batman. Rachel. Anyways, I appreciate you guys watching these. Hopefully, you can leave me some comments and let me know. Yes, it is damn good. Uh, this is, I'm going to be honest with you. Um, this is probably going to be my show of this year. Barring Yellowstone isn't good. I mean, I still got Yellowstone and the Tulsa King, to be honest with you, and those are phenomenal shows, both by uh, Ty, Taylor Sheridan. Yeah, those shows are amazing. So, but I honestly would put this show on that level. Like, that's the level of writing on this show. So, thank you very much. And, guys, come back and leave me your comments. Who do you think's going to live? Who's going to die? What are your predictions for next week's episode? Do you think we're going to see an all-out war? Are they going to build up slowly? Or, is Oz going to make a move against the Maronis? And more importantly, let me ask you guys this question. In the comments this week, I want you guys to tell me, who do you side for in this war? Do you want Sofia Falcone to win, or do you want the Penguin to win? Because I think that's a very interesting question now that this episode has reframed Sofia. So whose side are you on in this war? Do you want Sophie or Penguin to win? Oh, okay. So uh, in Drano, hopefully I'm saying that right. Forgive me if I butchered that. I'm not very good with names. Says, as a Batman lover, I want to see Batman, at least Bruce Wayne, in this series involved in some shit. I said I don't care if Batman's in this, and I'll tell you why. I think that the Batman for me at this point would ruin it because the character work is so strong. I get what you're saying. I said I would more like to see maybe Jeffrey Wright as commissioner, or at this point, Police Chief Gordon in here. I think something like that would suit the show, but I think if you put Batman in here, it distracts people, and it's not a real cameo. It's just like, you know, it's just something Marvel does, like, oh, here's a little nod. And the writers are great. I think they could do it tastefully, but to me, to be honest, I'm not even caring about what's going on with Batman right now because they've built such an interesting world and the characters are so good. And that's a show of how good the writing is. These characters are so much more interesting, to be honest with you, than anyone we got in the Batman movie, to be quite honest. Like, these are some of the best written characters I've seen in a couple of years. As I understand, also maybe Sophia's be in the Batman too if she's alive by then. That's what I'm saying, man. Give me your predictions. I'll be honest with you. If they made Sophia part of the world, I would not complain. I think Christina Milioti does an amazing job, and she is such an underrated actress. Um, I would have no issues with her coming back or making a cameo in the Batman. Even if they left it in kind of a stalemate, I wouldn't even really be upset because I think she's just such a great performer. But with the way this is going, I'm guessing they're going to take her out. But who knows? These writers are, they've already done some things I didn't expect them to do. Not only that, I think that the writers did a great job making the Batman have even more depth to it with this whole Carmine Falcone thing. Uh, yeah, I think whatever they choose to do, I completely trust in the faith and have faith in this writing team, 100%. But yeah, I could get behind her being in the Batman too. Uh, Absolutely. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. Please leave me some comments. Let me know. I got two questions for you this week. One, who do you want to win the war? Do you want Sofia or Penguin? And 2, what are some of your predictions in the upcoming weeks? Who do you think's going to live? Who do you think's going to die? More importantly, who do you think's going to wind up running Gotham by the time the Batman 2 is set to begin? Because it'll be really interesting to see what their role is going to be in the movie. Like, is Penguin going to be one of the main bad guys? Because they said in this movie he's supposed to have a bigger part in Batman 2. So this makes me super excited. Thanks everybody for watching. Thank you for your comments. I really appreciate it. And yeah, let me know, what are you thinking of the show and what's your rating of the show? As always, thank you for stopping by here in the Phantom Zone. And remember, there is only one rule here in the Phantom Zone: kneel before General Zod.